Hi, this is Michael Kohler with Coral Castle Explained. This is video 2 of the correlation between the Coral Castle and the Masonic Temple of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania in Norman Hall. And in this video, I'm going to go over three things. First, symbols within symbols at the Masonic Temple. Number 2 is astronomy and alignments at the Coral Castle. And 3, I'm going to finally kind of get to the end of the frequency of the bell issue. I'm going to talk about the bell a little bit, and in the third video, the one after this, I'll complete that topic. So let's get into what I'm talking about in this video. You'll probably remember that the six-pointed star was used at the Coral Castle in many different areas. You can see those here. But it's only at the Masonic Temple that we actually have symbols within symbols. Here we have the star with the sun in it. We have another symbol. This is actually a distant shot of the one with the bell. And here's the close-up. So we have symbols within these six-pointed stars at the Masonic Temple. In a previous video, I had shown you that the Masonic square and compasses was actually a representation of the six-pointed star, specifically a two-dimensional representation of two tetrahedrons superimposed together to create the Star of David. This star that you see on the right is also the same symbol that was used as the Seal of Solomon, which you can see on the right here. And the Seal of Solomon was actually a representation of perfect balance, and it was also known as the Merkaba, something I mentioned in another video, and this is in Kabbalistic traditions. That's a great little spinning representation of it right there. In the Masonic square and compasses, there is a very traditional symbol that is used. It's the letter G. And G can either represent God or geometry. Now, from the perspective of a mathematician like Pythagoras, who claimed that all things were based in numbers, and who is the creator of the Pythagorean theorem, there seemed to be a correlation between the concepts of intelligent design and mathematics. Going back to the symbols that are within these other symbols, they seem to paint a picture and correlate with one another. Let's tackle the G symbol here first. The ancient Egyptians believed that the sun was the god Ra, the deity of creation and creative power. Over 1,000 years later, the pharaoh Akhenaten worshipped only the sun god Aten. Aten was a sun god and was usually represented by a solar disk with extended rays of light. This same representation of the sun can be seen at both the Masonic Temple in Philadelphia and the Coral Castle today. Here we have it at the Coral Castle with the sun on the door and the 16 rays, and over here we have a similar sun symbol. So returning to my thinking about the symbol G and the sun being in the middle of the six-pointed star, I wondered if these symbols were just simply representing the same thing, a creative energy that was accessed by not only the pharaohs and the Freemasons, but also Edward Leeds Kellnan at the Coral Castle. What if Ed was right, that all things have a positive and negative polarity? We know that magnetism is real, and that it is generated by the Earth and affected by the sun. What if there was another form of energy that affected all matter in the same way that magnetism affected certain forms of metal? And what if this energy could affect a change in the limestone and coral blocks? My train of thought led me back to the most interesting Masonic symbol inside the six-pointed star, the one with the shape of a bell in it. Now, in a previous video, I showed you that Ed had created an etching in both the metal door and on the north wall, and I showed you that there seemed to be a correlation between the bell at the upper left of the metal door and the eyepiece to the Polaris Telescope. I then realized what the symbol of the bell actually meant. The bell represents what is called a resonant frequency, and the Polaris Telescope represents the orbit of the Earth in relation to the Sun and the Moon. Let me show you how those concepts fit together. First of all, the Polaris Telescope is not really a telescope at all. It is a nearly 30-ton piece of coral that stands 20 feet high that marks the exact position of the star Polaris in the sky at night. Like the Great Pyramid of Giza, which sits at the exact center of the Earth's landmass, the coral castle is aligned with the cardinal points, with the Polaris Telescope pointing the way. Ed also created something called the Sundial. It is supposed to keep time, but it actually is a representation of the path that the sun takes in the sky. These multiple figure eights that you see here are actually what are called analemmas. Essentially, if you were to plot the position of the sun in the sky with dots, this is how it would look based upon your longitude and latitude on the Earth. Ed even added the planets Venus, Mars, and Saturn to the coral castle. Once he moved to Homestead, he was seemingly obsessed with astronomy, specifically focused on the sun, the moon, the planets, and the orbit of the Earth. Getting back to the bell again, the bell, in my opinion, represents a certain frequency. And if we were able to resonate with that frequency, it could be the secret of the pyramid builders that Ed claimed to know. It is my opinion that Ed was obsessed with astronomy, specifically the sun, the moon, the cardinal points, and the orbit of the Earth, just as the ancient Egyptians were, because all of those things play a role in accessing this ancient and forgotten secret that Ed rediscovered, a secret that is based in the science of vibration and sound. In my final video, I will bring up the work of Hans Jenny, the creator of a science called cymatics, a science which shows that sound waves and frequencies can be represented in a physical form in geometric shapes as you see on the right. I will also finally get to what the shape of the bell means, what standing waves are, and why the coral castle may actually be resonating at this frequency, this secret frequency that allowed Ed, the Freemasons, and the pyramid builders to do the miraculous with limestone and coral blocks. Until next time.